if you're struggling with training your dog, you're probably not implementing all three of these elements. So my name is Linda Kwan, and I'm the owner and trainer at Wow Bow Wow. I specialize in working with pup parents with family dogs, companion dogs. They can be anywhere from the new puppy they bring home, the 2 to 4 month old, to the next stage, which is where they are entering their adolescent months, their teen months, the wild child months, as one of my clients call their dog. About 4 to 5 months old till maybe even 2 to 2.5 years old. And then I also work with pup parents that may have a older dog and they just recently encountering some issues they want to change. Or people have brought home a rescue dog, a mature rescue dog, and they want to start off well with their new dog. So those are the kind of people that I help. So back to success in training, effective training. So if you are not having success with your dog, you're most likely not doing these three elements. Okay, so let's go to the first one. So first of all, one of the most important things that you need to do is be able to understand your dog. Even when you're training, there's this, feedback where you are observing your dog and then asking them to do something. And even you may have to even modify what you're training them or how you're training them. So first, you have to crack the canine code. You have to understand their body language and their communication cues. Now, another reason this is important is, you have to help your dog feel safe. They don't know who you are when you bring them home. And if they see that you are understanding them and actually responding to their, like, when they're worried kind of cues and things like that, they will trust you. And I'm telling you, when they start to trust you, some of the issues that you're probably having, the undesired issues that you're having, will start to disappear or may change into what you prefer them to do. And I'll give you examples in a second. Now, the second part is you have to hone in your training skills. You got to figure out how to communicate with your dog clearly in your either the words you use, how you ask them to do a specific cue, whether you lure them or you capture their skills that you want, the training cues that you want. You got to figure out how to show them by improving your communication skills with them. All right. So again, as I mentioned earlier, part of this is also your observation skills. In order to teach them, you have to understand what they are understanding about what you're showing them and how to make adjustments as you go. So in many cases, it's not always just one way of teaching a specific cue. Sometimes we have to adjust it, customize it. And in some cases, if you're trying to prevent certain unwanted behaviors, we have to talk about management strategies, meaning you preventing them from doing those undesired behaviors, like maybe putting up a gate so they don't get to the kitchen, or making sure they're on leash when people come over so your dog doesn't jump on them if they're prone to do that, as we are training them to greet people more politely on all four paws on the ground. So it's also upping your training skills is very important. Now, the third element that I like to talk about is consistency, because you know what? It's hard. It's hard to do that, because if you're not consistent in regards to what you're asking them to do and how you do it, then it's confusing for them. They don't understand, and it's not clear on how you want them to do things. Now, with consistency comes accountability, and that's where having maybe a coach or some type of organization where you can like talk to other people about it and discuss, the things that you're doing can be very helpful to help you be consistent in implementing. Now, with that being said, I want this training experience for both parties, the dog and the human, to be, a positive experience, because like I mentioned in the very beginning, you're trying to build that connection and trust so you don't end up with maybe a reactive dog in the future. So, to recap, making sure you become observant and you learn about your dog's communication cues. And then you become a better trainer by improving and honing in your training skills. And then being consistent and routine. You hear this word all the time. Dogs do really well when there's a routine, because then there's like expectations and feeling safe, right? So all three of these should be in your training plan in order to have success, to be an effective trainer. Now, one of the issues that my clients, and I've seen this come up in several of the groups that I'm in, is one of the issues that people are having problems with is, barky dogs, excessive barking. I mean, barking is a normal dog behavior, but in some situations, we really don't want the excessive barking. So I wanted to share with you that next Tuesday, we are doing a workshop, a free workshop called Silence the Yappy Hour. And we're going to show and share with you first, about your dog again. See, remember those three elements I was talking about to understand your dog better and why they may be doing it. And then, we're going to show you a couple of training tips that you can use with your dog. Does that make sense? And then lastly, we're going to give you an opportunity where we can work together to help you be consistent and give you accountability. So the workshop is a live interactive workshop. And that doesn't mean you have to come do it with us, but you can. And you know what? That's the best way to learn, not just to sit back and listen, but to actually implement. That's how you make change. That's how you improve. So next Tuesday, it's at 3 p.m. at Pacific time. So that's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, 5 p.m. Central, and then 6 p.m. Eastern. All right. So I'll give you the link later in the comments where you can sign up. And it's free. Now, who is this workshop for? Well, if it's hard for you to walk your dog because you react to other dogs, maybe you're avoiding having people over because they bark at everyone that comes over and it takes them a long time to decompress and calm down. Well, either you can't attend a group class or you've been kicked out of one. And you know what? I'm going to share a story. About 15 years ago, my dog Jack and I were kicked out of a group class because I couldn't get Jack under control. He was barking at all the other dogs. And you know what? He was my first dog as an adult, and he taught me a lot. He taught me a lot about dogs. But so you may not be able to attend, or you may have been kicked out. And don't feel embarrassed, there are other ways to train your dog. So what about vet trips? Are you the person who has to tell the vet, I'm going to just be waiting outside, call us when it's our turn? I know some people have had to go through a different doorway to get to the vet's room because their dog couldn't get through the lobby area. So you know what? It does happen, and you're not alone. How about if you're struggling, getting their attention when they're in a barking frenzy? That's a lot of us, I think, out there. And again, you know what? It's just so embarrassing when you're out in public. When you're out in public and people you feel like are judging you. They're not. And more than half of them, they're probably saying, oh, I feel so bad for them. So don't be frustrated. Don't get embarrassed. It's just, we can help you do better. Help them do better. So how about those dogs in the house, where they bark at every noise they hear or bark at everyone that goes by the window? Maybe in your car. Maybe you have the dog that barks at everyone as you're driving along. I had that with one of my foster dogs, but anyway, he got rehomed, so I didn't have to deal with that. But anyway, I digress. So if any of this rings true for you, come to the workshop. And as I mentioned, we'll be covering how to maybe understand the root cause of your dog's barking. And maybe helping you identify what their triggers are. And sharing with you some techniques and tips about how to work with your dog. So again, I will share the link at the bottom in the comments. And I hope to see many of you there. And you know what? If you want to come and not participate and just listen, that's fine. That's the first step. And I'm happy that you came. But if you do come, I hope you do actually interact with us and work through the tips with us and practice them, in real time, and ask us questions, because we want to help your dog be a better dog. But you know what? The last thing I wanted to say is, I hear those comments like, oh, my dog is stubborn. But in many of those cases, what I notice is that you're not really understanding where they're coming from. You're not understanding the cues they're giving you. You either that, or like I mentioned, you may not have learned the skill well enough to communicate with your dog. Or the third issue may be that you haven't been consistent in training your dog. Have you ever tried learning a new instrument or sport? Well, it takes a bit of time to get proficient at it, don't you? I mean, it's not like I can go out and start learning how to play tennis and be on the Wimbledon circuit the next year. So you got to understand, you got to learn your skills, understand what your dog is trying to communicate with you, because, it's a feedback loop, the training, learning, it goes both ways. And then you have to be consistent in working with them. All right. Thank you for joining me for my Training Tip Tuesday. I hope this was helpful, and I hope to see you in our workshop next Tuesday at 3 p.m.